We were all expecting Georgia, but the Miami Hurricanes match up with Ole Miss in the CFP semifinal, and there's something about this matchup that makes it even trickier.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday. We made it! First Friday of 2026. First Friday with the Hurricanes, just 2 wins away from a national title. Not to get ahead of myself, though, because we have the table set for the Hurricanes' upcoming matchup. I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and host of Postgame on the Hurricanes Radio Network. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're on YouTube. We're part of the #1 Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check out the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. On this loaded episode, the transfer portal is open. Now, in recent years, the first day of the transfer portal would have been our lead story. But in recent years, Miami wasn't deep into the college football playoff, which is such a blessing. So this will be back page news. But we do have a few more Hurricanes that are going to be leaving in the portal and, some updates and speculation on who Miami's targets are going to be for coming in. We'll talk about the big challenges against Ole Miss because, folks, the table is now set. A lot of us thought, and it's not good to assume things, because if you assumed things, you'd be thinking Georgia versus Ohio State. All right, that was the chalk matchup in this side of the bracket. But Miami spoils the party for the defending national champs. Thank you, Hurricanes. And then Ole Miss spoiled the party as underdogs against Georgia, who's the only team that had beaten them this season, but the Rebels get it done in the rematch. And the other thing that Ole Miss spoils here is, the juicy matchup that would have been Carson Beck against his former team. But there's plenty you can sell for this game. Because honestly, Miami and Ole Miss, these are the two Cinderellas. The Hurricanes are the team that they lost to Louisville. They lost to SMU. A lot of folks thought Miami shouldn't or wouldn't have even gotten in to the 12-team playoff to begin with. Miami gets into the CFP, and they've beaten 2 really, really good teams to get this far. And then, of course, on the Ole Miss side, you had the Lane Kiffin saga. He ups and leaves the Rebels. Pete Golding, who they have rallied around. I mean, that team is playing so hard for Pete. Takes over, not just as interim, but they gave him the job. He's the new head coach at Ole Miss, and that team, I guess, has been even better since Lane Kiffin left. All they needed to do to get this close to the national championship was to let Lane go to LSU. So these are 2 tremendous, tremendous stories, and, there's something about this matchup. Obviously, I like Miami to edge it out, and so do the odds makers, but, folks, my initial thought before Ole Miss and Georgia played, I was thinking I would rather face the Rebels than the Bulldogs, simply because Georgia, I think, is the overall more talented team, and probably after Indiana, who keeps winning. I thought that Georgia after Indiana was probably the hottest team and the team that was in the best form of any team in the country. But after watching Ole Miss against Georgia and seeing that offense continue to roll, and after studying Ole Miss a little bit more, I think this is a super tricky matchup for Miami. And again, it's not to say Miami can't win or won't win, but in some ways, maybe you would have rather faced Georgia, because against UGA, it would have just been a line 'em up, man versus man, physical battle of wills. That's how Georgia plays. And Miami tends to do better in matchups like that than against the teams like Georgia, like Ohio State, Texas A&M, the teams that want to go toe for toe. Whereas Ole Miss, they've got an electric offense. They can be a little cute on offense, which doesn't always play into Miami's favor. They can be more unpredictable. You go up against Trinidad Chambliss. maybe the hottest quarterback in the country right now. It's a dual threat quarterback, more accuracy as a passer than the other dual threat quarterbacks Miami has faced this year. And, when it comes to facing running quarterbacks, like Miami statistically has done well against mobile quarterbacks and teams with mobile quarterbacks, but Chambliss, I think, is going to be the biggest challenge out of all of those. And I know I said that a couple weeks ago about Marcel Reed, but I had no idea Miami was going to face Trinidad Chambliss a couple games later. He's like a more accurate passing version of Marcel Reed. And, thinking about Miami's passing defense, folks, I hope that we get some good news over the next 6 days about the status of OJ Frederic, who got banged up, looked like an ankle late in the game against Ohio State. Damari Brown, who hasn't returned yet from injury. Like, I think we need to get good news about one or about both of those guys for the defensive secondary, because you're going up against a really, really prolific offense. And Miami's defense, when you play this many games and this many physical games, and you have to match up against guys like Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate in the last round, you're going to come away from those games with some battle scars. And Miami's defensive backfield is getting banged up at a bad time, right? So if you're without one or both of these guys, obviously you have the next man up mentality. Somebody like Ethan O'Connor is going to get a lot of reps, and you have Bryce Fitzgerald and Keontae Scott, and Xavier Lucas is still going to be good to go, and Jacoby Thomas. But Miami may be limited when it comes to the defensive secondary. We'll find out more as we get closer to this game. Miami's defense has done exceptionally well against the run this year. They held Ohio State to just 45 rushing yards. Miami gives up fewer than 87 rushing yards per game, but you're going to get tested by Ole Miss and somebody like Kewan Lacey. Now, Lacey is their leading rusher, third leading rusher in the nation, just under 1,500 yards on the year, and their quarterback, Trinidad Chambliss, at 520 rushing yards and 8 rushing touchdowns, by the way. Lacey's got 23 rushing touchdowns, which is insane. Chambliss has 8. So this is a dangerous running team. And again, this is a strength versus strength matchup, because Miami's rushing defense is one of the best in the entire country. But what we've seen from Ole Miss throughout the season is they can score points on anybody. Now, where I like Miami in this matchup is in a lot of other areas. The Hurricanes, in my humble opinion, and I think a lot of you share this opinion, Miami's going to have the advantage in the trenches, again, as they do against just about any team in the country. This game will be no exception. I like Miami's big offensive line, big athletic offensive line against Ole Miss's defensive front, although the Rebels do have a good front seven. But I like Miami's physicality, their size, proven in pass protection. Miami's got the best pass protection unit statistically in the entire country. Miami is much physically larger than Ole Miss at the point of attack. And I think Miami's offense can have success both through the air and on the ground. Ole Miss scores a lot of points, but they do tend to give up points as well. I know that over the last couple games, we're looking at Carson Beck throwing for about 138 yards the last couple playoff games. I think Miami's going to be able to open it up more this time around. And I think, Malachi Toney is going to be able to get things established a little bit more. So I think this one's going to be more of maybe more of a track meet. Now, I will say this. If the game turns into a pure shootout track meet, that favors Ole Miss big time, right? The style where Miami is more likely to win is if the Hurricanes can slow the game down, keep the game a little bit more physical, trench heavy, and make it a little bit more of a defensive chess match. Like that would, style of play wise, favor Miami a little bit more. If Miami can control the time of possession to keep Ole Miss's offense off the field, that would favor the Hurricanes. But I do think Miami's going to be able to probably score more than like what they scored against Ohio State at 24 points, and what they certainly more than the 10 points that they scored against Texas A&M. Ole Miss against the pass, they rank 30th in the country, which is pretty good, giving up 192 yards per game through the air. But I think Miami's offense is going to be able to establish their physicality in this game. We'll talk about how the odds makers see this one, and let's talk some transfer portal, because we're losing some Canes, but I think we have some clarity on who Miami's top quarterback target is going to be. You want to keep it locked right here. It's Friday, and we're only getting started on this brand new Locked On Canes. Folks, let's talk about something that most men don't bring up, but absolutely should. Stress from work, money, life. It doesn't switch off at night. And when it shows up at the worst possible time, Rougiette Ready is designed to help you take control back. Rougiette Ready is the next generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. Rougiette Ready combines 3 clinically proven ingredients in 1 mint that dissolves under your tongue so it absorbs fast. The science behind Rougiette Ready stands out. 3 clinically proven ingredients in 1 formula designed for both mental and physical readiness. You connect with a board-certified doctor online, and everything ships discreetly to your door. It's easy to understand why more than 150,000 men have already made the switch. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now is the time. Head to rougiette.com/lockedoncollege. That's RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rougiette Ready. Feel present, feel confident, and feel ready. Folks, we're also proudly brought to you by FanDuel, and we'll talk about where FanDuel has Miami against Ole Miss in a second. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better because every Friday night before the game tips off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick the weekend off with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Folks, Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new, like boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special right before tip-off and make the move before the window closes. The timing is perfect. Right before the games, right before the weekend starts. It adds a little extra Friday energy to basketball without having to overthink it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen. And if you're with us every day, you want to join the Everydayer Club. LockedOnCanes.supercast.com or click the link in the show notes below. You get exclusive newsletters, exclusive episodes, one-on-one text access with me, special written stories that I provide there. It's all available in the all-access tier at LockedOnCanes.supercast.com. Yeah, this has been such a whirlwind that I feel like we didn't have a whole lot of time to digest. We did episodes on it, don't get me wrong, but to digest that massive victory against Ohio State, Mark Fletcher continues to just absolutely put the rushing offense on his shoulders, play so well. I know Carson Beck is not lighting up the stat sheet, but he's managing games so well. He's not making mistakes. He's orchestrating the offense. And I do think Beck is probably going to have some opportunities to exploit Ole Miss's secondary a little bit. I think Miami's going to be able to score some more points in this game, as mentioned. The Hurricanes' defense has been so good. I mean, listen, Trinidad Chambliss, he's able to improvise. He's able to extend plays. He's always looking downfield, which makes him really dangerous. But he's going to get all he bargained for going up against Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor. And I also need to give more credit to Miami's pass rushing depth because Marquise Lightfoot was able to make impactful plays in the pass rush. And, we're thinking about the players that are going to be here after Bain and Mesidor both leave because they're both going to be really high NFL draft picks coming up in a few months. But until then, they're going to continue this run that we're making through the college football playoff. But, man, that win over Ohio State a couple of nights ago was it was so significant. Now I already see some folks, including, Matt Shodell at Kane Sport, who's, he's been covering Miami for longer than I have. I think he's been covering Miami since I was at Miami as a student. And I saw him proclaim at canesport.com that the Canes are back. He used the B word. The Canes are back. Now I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments below. Are we ready to actually utter that phrase? The U is back, or the Canes are back. Are we ready to say that? Or, like, I'm getting there. I'm getting closer, but I have contended for all these years that I will not say Miami is back until they hoist their 6th national championship. Whether that happens, in a couple weeks, or it happens in a couple years, or a couple decades. Like, I've been saying it, that I'm not ready to say the U is back until that national championship is won again. But I mean, Miami's obviously in the thick of it. You're one of the final 4 teams standing. It's just you, it's Ole Miss, it's Indiana, it's Oregon. Like, you are among the final 4 teams playing for a championship. And for what it's worth, you're favored to win the upcoming game. I don't know if you'll be favored in the game after that if you get there. We'll talk about that in a second. But are you guys ready to say the U is back? Because I don't know if I should say that until another championship is won. But okay, to the FanDuel odds. When I checked it this morning, I didn't check it last night after the Ole Miss victory, because I'm still, for the next couple of days, I'll be coming back to the States shortly, but I'm still in Italy. I'm in Milan right now, the hometown of my father. So I didn't check it because I was 6 hours ahead. So I was asleep. I had to watch the Ole Miss game this morning. It happened in the middle of the night for me. I wasn't going to do that 2 nights in a row. I did it for Miami. I wasn't going to do it for Ole Miss and Georgia. Sorry, guys. But by the time I woke up this morning, the number on FanDuel is Miami favored by 2.5. My understanding was the line actually opened at Miami minus 3.5. So favored by 3.5. And then obviously there was a bit of a correction there. Some money has come in on Ole Miss to close the line a little bit. And, listen, they're in the SEC, so you're always going to get some money coming in on you. Ole Miss is, again, it's a great story. Lane Kiffin left them high and dry. Pete Golding takes over. The team rallied around him. Trinidad Chambliss is in just incredible form at quarterback. So you can understand why there's some money coming in at Ole Miss when they were more than a field goal of an underdog. I don't think it's going to move drastically enough that Miami's ever going to be a dog. I think the Canes are going to stay favored. I think 2.5 kind of feels like the right number, right? I mean, Miami just put the nation on notice by beating Ohio State, who a lot of folks, not only did they think Ohio State would beat Miami, but a lot of people thought Ohio State was going to repeat as champion. So that was such a significant win for Miami. And Miami is so different, when it comes to just really generational line of scrimmage play. I think folks are starting to realize that when you have an advantage like Miami has in the trenches, when it's so impossible to block these guys, it's so difficult, to actually create pressure on Miami's quarterback. And yeah, Miami gave up 2 sacks against Ohio State. One of those was a pure coverage sack. And the other one was, Beck was actually able to climb into the pocket and only lost 1 yard on that sack. So it wasn't a banner day for Ohio State's pass rush. And that's one of the better pass rushes in the country. So I think people are starting to realize the pure advantage that Miami has up front. So I think the Hurricanes are going to stay favored, but the number did close a little bit. Opened at 3.5, and apparently enough money has come in on Ole Miss to make it Miami minus 2.5. So the other, significant happening of today, January 2nd, is that the transfer portal is open, and it's being widely reported now and widely understood that the Hurricanes' top target at quarterback is Cincinnati transfer Brendan Sorsby, who we really like. Dual threat quarterback, really talented. I think there's a lot you can do with Brendan Sorsby in a Shannon Dawson offense. I think he'd be a great fit at Miami. The Hurricanes, when it comes to the quarterback market, right? Paid a lot of NIL money for Carson Beck, paid a lot of NIL money for Cam Ward, and both of those quarterbacks had been able to improve their stock. In the case of Cam Ward, he went from a projected 3rd-day draft pick to number 1 overall. In the case of Carson Beck, I think he's definitely improved his draft stock. Not to mention, Carson has now advanced farther in the playoffs than Georgia, his former team. So he's still got an opportunity at a natty Georgia does not. So, transfer quarterbacks have done well at Miami. Miami's done well with transfer quarterbacks. They're going to be competitive from an NIL standpoint. So, Brendan Sorsby, and I think what sets Sorsby apart from Arizona State's Sam Leavitt, who I'm a huge fan of. I think if you take all the other factors out of the equation, I think Leavitt, in my opinion, is the top guy available. But I think a factor that Miami and other schools are going to take into account is that Leavitt is coming off his significant injury, a Liz Frank foot injury. He had a surgery for it. We're still unsure about how the recovery is going, and he's not going to be available for spring ball. Now, I know Miami did pretty well with Carson Beck, has done well. It's still happening. Miami's done well with Carson Beck, who missed spring football last year, but you'd rather have your quarterback in from January on if possible, and Sorsby is available and Sam Leavitt isn't. I think they're pretty similar other than that. So, with Sorsby, and a lot of folks have already speculated Texas Tech for him. His girlfriend, who's a volleyball player, a scholarship athlete, has transferred to Texas Tech. Folks think he might follow her. There's been some buzz, and Texas Tech, another team that, is willing to spend when it comes to the transfer portal. And, LSU, they're going to be a factor for a lot of these top transfer portal quarterbacks. I think that's a team people throw out there as well. But keep your eyes on Brendan Sorsby. Seems like he is going to be maybe the top target for Miami in the transfer portal. Gabby Urrutia from Inside the U, among others, have reported that. A couple of players that I'm really interested in. Auburn wide receiver Cam Coleman. Now, he's a stud. Most of the links are projecting him to remain in the SEC, Coleman, but there's something to watch out for from a Miami point of view is, I think Miami's going to be going after a big-time receiver, and he and Hurricanes receiver Dalen Upshaw are best friends. Dalen's already recruiting him on social media, so that might be something that helps Miami. Another player that I really like reportedly entered the portal last night is Minnesota safety Coy Parrish. So Minnesota, he played under Corey Heatherman as a freshman 2 years ago or last year and just balled out in 2024. I think he had a bit of a down year in 2025, but tremendous player. And when he and Corey Heatherman were together a season ago, really, really excelled. So you have to, and he's a Minnesota native. So for him to leave Minnesota is a big deal. Fans there are not too happy about that, but Miami, I think, is certainly going to be one of the teams to watch there. Now, Miami, the portal giveth and the portal also taketh away. Few of the new players who are entering the portal and exiting Miami. Dante Simpson, young defensive tackle. I have to wonder what's going on there behind the scenes because he got some playing time this year. He's a South Florida native, Chaminade Madonna. It seemed like he has a bright future at Miami. I don't know if he wants surefire playing time, perhaps somewhere else, but Dante Simpson is leaving. Tight end Brock Schott is leaving. Miami's got a lot of tight. You got two freshman tight ends coming in, and he came in with Luca Gilbert, who probably got a little bit more PT than Schott did this year. So Schott, I hate to lose him, but transfer portal era, guys are looking for playing time. They're looking for opportunities. So Brock Schott is leaving in the portal. And, similar situation for wide receiver Chance Robinson, who I'm a big fan of. Great young man, great family. And I know the family bleeds orange and green. His father is a policeman in the area, just a tremendous person. I've had a chance to meet the father before, had a chance to meet Chance Robinson before. But of course, Miami does have a logjam of young receivers, and, Robinson wasn't getting a lot of opportunities here. He also was missing time due to injury, but he's going to seek an opportunity somewhere else. And, he was very thankful to Miami in his social media statement when he confirmed he was leaving. So I know he loves the U, but, he's looking for opportunities elsewhere. So God bless Chance Robinson. We wish you the best. Button and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your pods. And we'll talk to you again. Make sure you check out the Everydayer Club All Access, by the way, LockedOnCanes.supercast.com. And we'll talk to you next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.